So I'm reacting to this idea that Bernie needs to be a little bit more focused in his debating. I'll acknowledge I haven't watched any of the debates yet. I'm actually going to watch one. I'm going to get something to eat and then watch one. It's the first one I've watched, so I can't really talk too much about this. I haven't seen any of these debates, so I don't really know. But the argument that comes up, you see this come up a lot in politics. This idea that you want to make sure that you have a good grasp of the things that are going on, and slay them with details and all these sorts of things, right? And that's what the political class wants to focus on because that's what swings them. But if you take a step back for a minute and you think about it for a second, what you're actually doing in a debate is you're acting as a salesperson, right? Now, if you're somebody that's really focused on, let's say you want to buy a TV, okay? If you're somebody that's really focused on the specs of the TV, you're going to do your research, you're going to figure out, you're going to go to the website, read all the reviews, do all that kind of stuff before you walk into the store, right? And then what you're going to want out of the salesperson is, just bring me to the aisle with the TV that meets these specs, or you might even know exactly what brand you want, and it's just you have this model in, and then you're going to buy the TV and walk out. The salesperson will get their commission, but they didn't really sell you on anything, right? Because you're a details-oriented person, you do the research yourself. What the salesperson is going to swing as somebody that is going to make a gut decision, right? Somebody that's really maybe not thinking entirely clearly about the decision that they're making. They're going to make it on, you're convincing this person, right? And in order to convince somebody, they have to be open to persuasion, which means that maybe they're not using as much independent thinking as the detail-oriented person, right? So if you try to approach trying to swing somebody that's not focused on details and facts and data with facts and data and details, what you do is you just bore them. You just turn them off. You got to go after them with arguments that are based on less detail and less fact, that are more about getting them in the gut, getting them to make an emotional response because that's what drives them, right? And I know I'm very much a facts detail-oriented person. It took me a long time to understand this, but I mean it's the psychology of it, right? This is why politicians come off looking so ridiculous to smart people, because they have to look ridiculous in order to convince ridiculous people, right? So what I'm saying is that he's not trying to swing detail-oriented voters. The reality is that you don't swing detail-oriented voters. They look at their own data and they decide on their own. The people that you swing in a debate are people that think with their gut. The more you get into facts, the more you come off like a talking head, which is to say that he'd be doing himself some good if he really did sound more like Trump. The difference, of course, being that Sanders actually has a platform for people to go look up, should they choose to. That's the reason that Trump is winning. Trump is not winning because people like his policies. He's winning because he doesn't talk policy. Right? And so people watch the debates, they listen to it and everything, and there's no thinking involved, because you don't swing people that think based on that, right? And people that want to actually look at policies and all these sorts of things will do that on their own. They don't need a spokesperson to get them to do that, and they're probably not going to be swayed via that kind of an avenue. The people that you swing through this are people that are basing their ideas on emotional, or they're not even ideas. They're being pulled. They're sheep, right? And that's what you have. That's what you do with the debate. Is you herd the sheep. You don't convince people with ideas and discourse and through the strength of your rhetoric. That's not what a debate is. A debate is a way to herd the sheep. If you're interested in policy discussions and all these sorts of things, well, this goes on outside of a debate, right? That goes on, people by themselves, reading documents, with their reading glasses, quietly in their study, right? That's where that happens. A debate, it's all herding the sheep, it's gut reactions, it's that kind of thing, right? So, like I say, I am actually going to watch this debate. It's the first one I've watched. I'm a Canadian. I'm not sitting around watching the American debates. It's just, I've got better things to do, right? And on top of that, my interest in this is more in looking at data. crunching, I'm a data analyst, I'm a mathematician, I'm not a politician, I don't have a poli-sci degree, I have a math degree, right? So, I mean, that's what I'm interested in, looking at things like that and saying, okay, what is it that, this group has to do this, or does this make sense? And like I say, I'm convinced that the integrity of the process is under a lot of question, and there should be a lot of scrutiny put on whether this is a fair process or not. I think that the results are not consistent with the polling. And generally, when you have results, I know in the United States, when you have results that are inconsistent with the polling, you blame it on the pollsters. Okay. Everywhere else in the world, when you have results that are inconsistent with the polling, you question the fairness of the results. Okay, and that's what I'm seeing here. It does not make sense at all to me to think that you can have a situation where all of the polls say that Clinton is way ahead amongst registered blue Democrats, and the only reason why Sanders even has a chance is because of independents. Okay, all of the polls say that across the board. But then when you have these caucuses, Sanders is winning all of them in blue states even. Okay? There's a consistency. It's in blue states and red states and purple states. If it's a caucus, Sanders is doing better. But he's doing as well in these solid blue states that he's doing in the red states. Okay? Across, all the way through, right? There doesn't seem to be any, there really seems to be unanimity in the caucuses that Sanders is their guy, right? And the caucuses are the registered Democrats that are supposed to be leaning heavily towards Clinton. So this doesn't make any sense. Either something is going wrong with the caucus process, which is impossible because that's the whole point of a caucus, right? You can't rig a caucus. People sit there and they vote by raising their hand. I suppose it's possible that that Sanders could be bringing in all sorts of people and faking their. It's outrageous, right? I mean, it's impossible. You can't rig that. What you can rig is a secret ballot by stuffing ballot boxes, or miscounting things accidentally, right? So it's the only way to look at the numbers. And this, I want to be clear, like this implies a pretty deep organization, which is why I'm saying Bernie ought to get out. Okay, I'm not saying that Clinton herself has rigged this, and she's like it's like some diabolical scheme by the Clinton campaign. What I'm suggesting is that the Democratic Party has decided that Clinton is the representative. Okay, and they are manufacturing everything across, from the polls to the results. It's all totally manufactured. Okay, from start to finish, all the way through, and it's the entire establishment that's orchestrating it. Big conspiracy, a vast right-wing conspiracy within the Democratic Party. Okay, that's what I'm suggesting. It's the only way to make sense of it. If the polls are accurate, then she should have won big in Minnesota, and she should have won big in Maine. But polling does not, it's an inexact science, but it's a science. And when you have the same results over and over and over again, they should be something close to correct. Because we can't conclude that Sanders rigged the caucuses, we have to conclude that the polling is inaccurate. Okay? So we're looking at bad data in the polling. And then if you establish that there's bad polling being done, no doubt on purpose, when it's that frequent and that consistent, it has to be on purpose. Then you have no reason to trust the secret ballot voting results. If they will go so far as to pay off a voting firm, you'd think they'd do it there too. it's certainly good planning. I mean, if they were going to rig the votes and just ignore the voting, I mean, that would come out, right? If you're going to rig the vote, you've got to rig the polling too. Otherwise, people would be able to tell what you're doing. But you can't rig a caucus. And so instead, what the media is doing is they're just throwing it away. These are weird, right? Like what Sank is saying, right? They're strange, and they're just thrown away. What that means, what that's code for, is that these cannot be fixed. We can't control these, and so the results will be different because they're not under our thumb. I'm gonna have to split this into two, no doubt, but or at least split it into two in the React series. I guess it'll come up in one in the vlog, but it's like I say, as a data analyst, as a mathematician, that's the only conclusion I can come to with this. But I'm gonna watch an actual debate tonight and see what conclusions I can draw from actually watching it. I don't think I'm a chump when it comes to politics, but it's not something I ever studied.